Now, let's observe the video clip. The horrifying scene you just witnessed was captured by the surveillance camera of a hotel. A woman screams loudly as she tries to flee from the room in the early morning. However, she's pulled back by a terrifying force. On February 8, 2015, just 10 days before the Lunar New Year, the Ma Ashan Police Department in Anhui Province received a concerning report. A man from Hefei, Anhui, reported that his wife, Mrs. Wang, had arrived in Ma Ashan 5 days ago to meet a close friend. Since then, he's been unable to contact her, and her phone has been turned off. It's worth noting that this female friend and Mrs. Wang had never met before. The couple are journalists, and they live harmoniously and are close to their neighbors. They jointly operate a hardware store in Hefei and have a stable income. He never harbored ill feelings towards others, and his life was very simple. However, his wife, Mrs. Wang, suddenly disappeared like this. Her family members are living in anxiety. Her 1-year-old child cries incessantly and searches for her mother. Upon receiving the report, the police immediately began to gather information about Mrs. Wang's identity. It was known that she arrived in Ma Ashan City on February the 3rd and stayed at a hotel located in the city center. The hotel's surveillance camera recorded a terrifying scene at 6 p.m. on the same day. Wang dragged her suitcase and approached the reception desk to check in. After receiving the room card, she entered the elevator and went up to the 14th floor to room 1453. It was a room with a large round bed. According to the hotel's records, Wang only stayed overnight and checked out on the next day. To find clues, the police continued to check the surveillance video. The camera only captured Wang's image in the hotel, but there was no footage of her leaving. The checkout time was recorded as 8:28 a.m. on February 4th. Furthermore, the surveillance camera at the front desk recorded the image of a man. He was wearing a jumpsuit and a cap. Along with that, 2 suitcases, one large and one small, also appeared in the image. After Wang's husband and friends in Ma Ashan were invited to identify the identity of the mysterious man, none of them knew who he was and could not provide any information about him. So, what's the connection between this man and Mrs. Wang's disappearance? The hotel is equipped with 24/7 continuous video surveillance systems. At 12:19 a.m. on February 4th, a man appeared in the surveillance camera image on the 14th floor. After exiting the elevator, he walked straight to room 1453. In his hand, he didn't hold anything. He went to the door and rang the bell, but received no response from inside. Next, he knocked on the door a few more times. Finally, when the door opened, he walked straight into the room. Because there was no image of Wang leaving the room during the surveillance, it was quite likely that she opened the door for the man. The man entered the room normally, without any signs of violence. He then left the room and returned after 10 minutes. This time, it was still Wang who opened the door. Finally, the terrifying scene was discovered at 2 a.m. The woman rushing out of the door in the image was Wang. As soon as she stepped out, she was pulled back by a hand from behind. The force of this pull was very strong. Both of her feet were off the ground, and it was clear she wasn't wearing shoes. This indicates that she ran out in a panicked and hurried state. By looking at her mouth shape, the police concluded that she was trying to call for help before being pulled back into the room. The door quickly closed, and from then on, Wang did not appear outside anymore. From these developments, the police concluded that Wang's disappearance was definitely related to this man. At 3:46 a.m., the mysterious man stealthily opened the door. He peeked out to observe the hallway, then closed the door again. By 4:45 a.m., the door opened, and the man stepped out alone. This time, he wore a hat and held keys tightly in his hand, heading towards the elevator. He descended the elevator and left the hotel, stopping at a cafe on foot. He bought a bottle of wine and quickly continued his journey. By 5:22 a.m., he returned to the room, this time swiping the card himself to open the door. At 6:43 a.m., he stepped out again and had an exchange with the receptionist on the first floor. In such a short night, he entered and exited several times. At 7:48 a.m., the man returned to the room 1453 for the last time. This time, he was dragging a large suitcase into the room. By 8:19 a.m., he left again to pull out the large suitcase. Simultaneously, he took Wang's small suitcase. This detail drew special attention from the police. The large suitcase he pulled was about 70 centimeters tall and 50 centimeters wide. Meanwhile, Wang's height was only about 1.48 meters. Theoretically, her body could fit into that suitcase. Combined with previous circumstances and experience from investigated cases, the police concluded that Wang might have been murdered. At 8:28 a.m., the man pushed the two suitcases to the hotel reception desk. He checked out and left, leaving a big question mark in the receptionist's mind. At this moment, the police decided to enter room 1453 for investigation. However, after several days had passed, the room had become messy, and many people had entered, complicating the investigation process. At the scene, the remaining evidence could not determine anything. However, after questioning the hotel staff, a new clue was discovered. On February 4th, after checking out, the housekeeping staff proceeded with their duties as usual. But when they reached room 1453, they found the room in disarray. The comforter on the bed was disheveled, and the bedsheet was no longer in its original position. In particular, they found some blood on the pillow. But the staff had encountered similar bloodstains during previous work, so they didn't pay much attention to it. They washed and changed the bedding as usual without much notice. Based on this clue, the police conducted on-the-spot investigations at room 1453. Indeed, blood had flowed from the core of the pillow on the bed. After DNA comparison, the police determined that it was Wang's blood. She had shared the room with a man, so what happened in the room that night? The police immediately informed all train stations, explored surrounding hotels, and checked all routes. They found that a man, after leaving the hotel, did not take a taxi as predicted. Instead, he pulled two suitcases and walked on the street. It could be assumed that he wanted to find an opportunity to abandon or hide those suitcases. Therefore, the most important thing was to monitor all his movements. Now, it was 8 a.m., the peak time of the workday. In case he wanted to move by public transport, the likelihood of him carrying two suitcases on a bus was low. Therefore, the police focused on checking taxis coming and going. After investigation, a taxi driver reported having a male passenger and his luggage seeming quite heavy. The driver got out to help him load them into the trunk. However, the passenger firmly refused and did everything himself. After getting into the car, the man asked the driver to stop and let him off at Hongqi Bridge in Ma'anshan. This was a place where many taxis converged to go to various destinations. Based on clothing characteristics, posture, and other factors, the police quickly realized that the person sitting in the front passenger seat was the one they were looking for. They immediately contacted the taxi driver via the license plate number. The taxi driver recounted that the man got out near a residential area in Shizu Town, Linkai District. Nearby, there's a resettlement housing community, an area lacking surveillance cameras. With no information about the man's identity, the investigation became passive. Early in the morning after the incident, the man walked into a cafe. At 11 p.m. that same day, he appeared outside the hotel. From monitoring him at the cafe, they noticed he had used the internet at 7 p.m. The cafe's internet registration showed the man's name as Shenzhen. After comparing the photo from his ID card, the police confirmed he was the man who had entered the hotel. Later, he continued to move to the Lingtai town. With the support of local police, the police finally found his residence address. The police quickly deployed forces and were ready to arrest this criminal. One afternoon, Shenzhen confidently boarded a bus from Lingtai district to Guangzhou city, unaware that the police had been watching him throughout the journey, waiting for the right moment to apprehend him. Before he could make it home, Shenzhen was finally arrested on the bus. The surprise and fear were evident on the criminal's face as the police surrounded him. During the search, they found Wang's ID card and bank card in Shenzhen's bag. These pieces of evidence further proved his crimes. Taken to the police station, Shenzhen couldn't escape the pursuit of justice. Under pressure and fear during interrogation, he confessed to his crimes. From these confessions, the police learned that Shenzhen and Wang were not previously acquainted. They were just friends. However, he lost control for some reason and killed Wang. After the incident, Shenzhen left the hotel with the victim's body in a suitcase and buried it in a nearby forest. The police later found the burial site and collected more crucial evidence. Through documents and personal information, the police learned that Shenzhen was born in 1987 and lived in Lingtai district, Guangzhou city. Before the incident, in January 2015, he met Wang in an online chat group in Hefei. They were the same age, both feeling bored with their families and current lives. Through interactive conversations over a few days, they felt interested and decided to meet up. Wang, coming from Hefei, set foot in the big city for the first time and checked into a hotel. Meanwhile, Shenzhen kept a secret, ready to carry out his dark plan. And at midnight, the two met. As soon as they met, Wang asked Shenzhen to go downstairs to register with the hotel. Shenzhen left the room for a moment, but during that time, his intention changed. He wondered why bother to register. A twisted feeling overwhelmed him. He decided not to register any personal information and returned to room 1453. Immediately afterward, the two engaged in sexual intercourse. Shenzhen shared that after the incident, they easily chatted and suddenly brought up the issue of the room fee. Wang asked him to go to the hotel reception the next day and pay more than 200 yuan for the room. However, Shenzhen didn't bring much money and felt helpless. He didn't realize that this made Wang extremely angry. The two began arguing about who would pay for the room. At that moment, Wang's wallet was on the bedside table. Shenzhen had the idea to steal the wallet. At that time, the wallet contained over 1,000 yuan in cash and some bank cards. As he began threatening to ask for the bank card's password, Wang told him. Shenzhen was also surprised at how cooperative she was. Meanwhile, he was using his mobile phone to verify the authenticity of the bank card password. Wang decided to take the opportunity to escape from room 1453. She rushed to open the door and ran out of the room. Shenzhen was surprised and hurriedly chased after her, pulling her back into the room. She screamed loudly in the room, but it was too late, which made Shenzhen extremely fearful. He saw Wang's silk scarf lying near the bed and quickly tightened it around her neck. While Shenzhen was in turmoil, which led to Wang's death, he felt terrified. He hastily left room 1453. He then bought some wine to calm down. However, all the stores were closed. He went to the cafe he usually frequented and learned that there was no wine available. Finally, he bought a bottle of red and left. For the third time, Shenzhen entered room 1453 at 4 a.m. His mind was in chaos. However, he attempted to dismember Wang's body to evade feelings of guilt. At 6 a.m. on February 4th, he stepped out of the room 1453, determined to buy the largest suitcase possible and return to the hotel to resolve the issue. He then checked out and carried the two huge suitcases out of the hotel. Initially, he planned to throw the suitcases somewhere, but he realized there was nowhere truly discreet. He knew that any place he threw the suitcases would be quickly discovered. In the end, he decided to take them back to his hometown in Lingtai district to hide them. That was where he was arrested by the police the next day upon his return. Shenzhen, 28 years old, had been married for 6 years. People around him thought he was introverted and reserved. With a low level of education, he abandoned his family at a young age and worked at a construction site. Loneliness and pain in life led Shenzhen to the internet. In 2009, he met a girl online named Liu. They didn't take long to decide to get married. Initially, their relationship was very good, but the joy didn't last long. Shenzhen soon discovered his wife's illness, and she couldn't bear children. Despite being treated everywhere, her condition didn't improve. The illness spread and haunted their married life. Both of them felt disgusted with this married life. Moreover, Shenzhen was not good at communication and had difficulty expressing affection for his wife. They just tried in every way to maintain their marital relationship, even though they weren't happy. Just 6 years into their marriage, Shenzhen and his wife still hadn't found the joy of being parents. Neighbors and elders in the family kept criticizing and worrying. Shenzhen became increasingly frustrated in the prolonged gloomy atmosphere. He got used to seeking satisfaction in the online world, where he could communicate with others comfortably. And Wang's appearance relieved the pressure Shenzhen was facing, but this illicit reunion turned into a tragedy. Wang's husband could never have imagined that things would turn out this way. He didn't understand why his wife would put herself in such a dangerous situation, even risking her life. Wang knew nothing about Shenzhen. Simply chatting with strangers online laid the groundwork for a tragedy. For Shenzhen, lack of communication and marital relations drove him crazy. He decided to see marriage as a formality and overlook it. In a fit of madness, he plunged into a life of crime. Despite his regrets, he couldn't redeem his mistakes. His actions became intentional murder and robbery. On July 25, 2015, Shenzhen was sentenced to death by the Ma and Shan People's Court. The development of the internet has opened up for ways for us to make friends with new people. However, it also warns us not to make wrong decisions just because of fleeting emotions. That is the valuable lesson from this story.
On the evening of December 9, 1999, an elderly farmer growing vegetables near Zhouling Bridge in Zhoudong Town discovered a charred corpse. Upon receiving the report, the local police immediately arrived at the scene. They promptly began their investigation and found that the victim was severely burned to the point of being unidentifiable. However, there was something very surprising that caught the attention of the police. Despite being burned beyond recognition, the soles of the victim's feet remained clean. Could this be a case of suicide? The police conducted a thorough search of the scene and the surrounding area, but found no gasoline canisters or any fire-starting devices such as lighters. Even more peculiar was the absence of the victim's shoes. The ground beneath the bridge was littered with sharp rocks and iron debris, making it impossible for anyone to walk barefoot on the rocky surface, especially if they intended to commit suicide. So could someone have brought the victim here? However, another issue arose. The victim's body was completely charred with no signs of injury. At this point, the first task was to identify the victim. Luckily, the clothing on the body was not completely burned, and personal documents were found in the pockets. The owner of the documents was Lin Yong Lao from Zhoudong. So, was the deceased person Lin Yong Lao? The police immediately contacted Lin Yong Lao's family and also announced through the media the clothing and characteristics of the deceased in order to quickly determine the true identity of the victim. At this time, Lin Renqi, Lin Yong Lao's younger brother, who was worried about not being able to contact his brother, received a call from the police. Although awaiting the DNA test results, he began to feel uneasy. While things were still unclear, Liu Yihong, a woman in her 40s, went directly to the police station to confirm that the deceased was her husband, Lin Yong Lao. This was confirmed through a watch belonging to the deceased that the police had released. While Lin Renqi circled around the autopsy table several times, but still couldn't be sure if it was his brother. However, Not long after, the DNA test results were released, confirming that the deceased was Lin Yong Lao, aged 46. After identifying the victim, the police began investigating Lin Yong Lao to determine the cause of his death. Previously, he was a soldier in the Special Forces of the military, a job that required excellent health conditions. After leaving the military, he earned a living as a truck driver and taxi driver. However, a few years before the incident, he was involved in a serious car accident and suffered head injuries, rendering him unable to work and frequently staying at home. Lin Yong Lao had two major hobbies: drinking alcohol and raising dogs. He would have a drink every day and never refused when invited for a drink. Although he was an alcoholic, his family stated that Lin Yong Lao never caused trouble for others. His second hobby was raising dogs. He had 5 dogs and would often walk them in his free time. Lin Yong Lao's life seemed simple and ordinary, so who could have wanted to harm him? During police questioning, Lin Yong Lao's younger brother and nephew provided important information. Lin Renqi said that just 4 months before the incident, Lin Yong Lao had encountered a series of accidents. He was involved in 2 car accidents and 3 house fires. Every house he moved to ended up burning down. Moreover, he was also unexpectedly stabbed during that time, and during all these incidents, there were no wounds on Lin Yong Lao's body. However, Lin Yong Lao attributed these incidents to bad luck, and his relatives and friends believed they were accidents caused by his alcohol addiction. Only when these seemingly improbable accidents turned into a tragic death for Lin Yong Lao did the truth begin to emerge. The night before the incident, Lin Yong Lao's nephew coincidentally met him to discuss the risks he had encountered. When the nephew approached Lin Yong Lao, the dogs began barking incessantly and only stopped when he spoke up. So why is it that whenever Lin Yong Lao was attacked or his house was set on fire, they didn't bark as a warning? Perhaps Lin Yong Lao knew, but did not reveal the identity of the person he suspected, and perhaps he would never have the chance to expose that person, because the next day, Lin Yong Lao disappeared. And sadly, when he was found, he was nothing more than a charred body exposed to the elements. But this was a crucial clue. Furthermore, shortly afterward, they received another valuable clue from a friend of Lin Yong Lao. This friend revealed that he had visited Lin Yong Lao while he was in the hospital after being hit by a car. During the visit, Lin Yong Lao told his friend that if he died, he should ask his friends to inform the police to see Liu Yihong and investigate her. What does this statement imply? Surely the police are the ones who understand best, as they piece together the unusual behaviors from the start of Liu Yihong, Lin Yong Lao's words to his nephew and friend before his death. Could Liu Yihong be involved in her husband's death? Liu Yihong and Lin Yong Lao had been married for 20 years and had 2 daughters. Initially, their relationship was good. Although they sometimes argued, when tensions escalated, Lin Yong Lao would often leave his wife alone and go out to relax. However, after the car accident, Liu Yihong's attitude towards her husband worsened. The accident not only left Lin Yong Lao unable to work, but also severely affected his health. Subsequently, Liu Yihong bought a small apartment outside and moved out to live with her daughter. Lin Yong Lao couldn't work outside due to his health condition, so he used his savings to open a small restaurant for Liu Yihong. However, she often didn't allow Lin Yong Lao to enter the restaurant, except when it closed in the evening. Another reason for the strained relationship between the couple was financial issues. After the car accident, Liu Yihong wanted Lin Yong Lao to sell the family's land to raise money. These pieces of land could be sold for over 30 million Taiwanese dollars, a significant amount of money. However, Lin Yong Lao believed that these fields were ancestral property and couldn't be sold arbitrarily. Furthermore, Lin Yong Lao had previously suspected his wife of infidelity, so he wanted to transfer the land to his grandson, Lin Renqi's son. When Liu Yihong found out about this, she was furious. She complained that why her and her daughter were left with nothing while Lin Yong Lao was giving away their property to his grandson. It's possible that this resentment led her to consider killing her husband. The police immediately identified the motive for the crime and began investigating the relationships between individuals and Liu Yihong's call records. There was nothing unusual in Liu Yihong's call records except for a call from Duong Yu Hai before the incident occurred. The call lasted for only 0 seconds. The police traced the owner of the phone but found nothing significant. However, they discovered that Liu Yihong had a close relationship with her cousin's brothers, who owned an auto repair shop. Coincidentally, police cars were often repaired and maintained at this shop, so the special detective team asked the cousins to obtain some useful clues from Liu Yihong. The cousins agreed and were very enthusiastic afterward. They provided the police with a lot of information, but, strangely, all the information was related to Lin Yong Lao, and all of it was negative, such as his gambling habits, alcoholism, and conflicts with others. Upon verification, the police found that the information was not true. It turned out that the detectives suspected the cousins, so they used a tactic of reverse psychology to deliberately tell them that they had ruled out suspicion of Liu Yihong to prevent them from colluding. At the same time, the police made some progress in tracking Lin Yong Lao's movements before the incident occurred. On the day of the incident, Lin Yong Lao went to the restaurant with another man for drinks. The owner was particularly impressed with the man accompanying Lin Yong Lao, because that day, the man didn't have enough money to pay the bill at the restaurant, while Lin Yong Lao was completely drunk and clueless. The man told the owner that he would go outside to get money and come back to pay. The owner suspected that the man intended to dine and dash, so he secretly recorded the man's license plate in the notes. However, contrary to his prediction, the man quickly returned, paid the bill, and left with Lin Yong Lao. Unfortunately, a month had passed, so the owner had scribbled something over the notes, completely covering the license plate. However, the police could still see 3 digits, and quickly they found the vehicles related to those numbers. There were a total of 7 vehicles matching the information. One of them belonged to a contact of Duong Yu Hai in Taoyuan town. The police immediately recalled the previous incident from the missed call on Liu Yihong's cell phone. After investigation, the vehicle owner admitted that the phone and car indeed belonged to him, but he had lent them to a friend who didn't return them. Both were brought to court for this matter. Now his friend was called Liao Tuizhong, who was also wanted for embezzlement. The police quickly confirmed that the man who accompanied Lin Yong Lao in the restaurant that night was Liao Tuizhong, and promptly arrested him. Immediately after that, Liao Tuizhong confessed that he was the one who killed Lin Yong Lao, but the mastermind behind the incident was Liu Yihong. He also admitted that there were 10 others involved in the case, including the 2 cousins mentioned earlier. They were Liu Yihong's son-in-law's cousins and had planned a series of accidents to kill Lin Yong Lao, all under the direction of Liu Yihong. However, during the interrogation, Liu Yihong denied having any intention to kill her husband. She stated that Lin Yong Lao had a drinking problem and would often physically abuse her when drunk. Unable to endure the violence for long, she devised a way to confront her husband. However, she never thought of killing Lin Yong Lao. But despite her seemingly persuasive reasons, they quickly became a clumsy drama due to the confessions from her accomplices. They admitted that Liu Yihong had intended to kill Lin Yong Lao for a long time, not just in 1 or 2 days. She frequently visited the cousins' shop and complained to them about Lin Yong Lao's mistreatment in the family. She also said that if someone helped Liu Yihong get rid of her husband, she would pay 1 million Taiwanese dollars. Initially, the 2 brothers didn't believe Liu Yihong's words, but later they realized she seemed entirely serious about carrying out that cruel deed. Only then did they pay attention to that hefty reward. Due to their frequent contact with the police, they sometimes heard details of cases, and even to prepare for their own schemes, they bought some crime investigation DVDs to watch. The astonishing part was that the entire garage, including the owner, employees, and even relatives, friends, and regular customers, were involved. During the day, it was just an ordinary garage, but at night, it turned into a place to plot murders. In August 1999, they began to execute their plan to kill Lin Yong Lao for the first time. However, killing someone turned out to be harder than they thought. The two brothers planned to use a staged car accident to kill him, with the aim that even if the culprit was found, it would only be considered a simple car accident. But in the end, they could only inflict minor injuries on Lin Yong Lao. After the first murder attempt failed, Liu Yihong immediately planned for the second attempt, this time still using the car accident tactic. But she learned from the previous experience and changed the driver. She was so impatient that she carried out the scheme just 1 month after the previous car accident. Liu Yihong told her husband that she forgot her purse at a friend's house and asked Lin Yong Lao to take her there. On the way, she tried to find a reason for her husband to go alone. But unexpectedly, this time, Lin Yong Lao was hit by the assailant at a speed of 80 kilometers per h. Due to serious injuries, he had to be hospitalized, and his life was in critical condition, but still not dead. Liu Yihong couldn't bear it. She tried every way to kill her husband, from poison, snake venom injection, but Lin Yong Lao still successfully survived the ordeal, and that only made Liu Yihong more furious. Therefore, this time, Liu Yihong and the two brothers discussed and decided to use gasoline to burn Lin Yong Lao to death. However, fate seemed not to be on his side. He still survived despite minor burns. In total, he had to face death a total of 6 times before the cruel plots of his wife. But on the 7th attempt, he wasn't lucky anymore. On December 9th, 1999, Liao Tuichong pretended to walk past Lin Yong Lao's house to ask for directions. Then, both quickly struck up a conversation and gradually developed a good impression. Lin Yong Lao invited Liao Tuichong into the living room to continue the conversation. Liao Tuichong then took out a bottle of liquor that he had prepared beforehand and invited Lin Yong Lao to drink with him. However, no one expected that Lin Yong Lao had an extremely high alcohol tolerance. Without knowing how much the reward was, but Liao Tuichong had to spend 1,000 yuan to pay for the alcohol and bait just to intoxicate Lin Yong Lao. By 1815, Lin Yong Lao was still not drunk, so Liao Tuichong took him to another restaurant. However, as he didn't have enough money, he contacted the two brothers to borrow money. Finally, this time, Lin Yong Lao was truly intoxicated. After taking him down the Zhoulin Bridge, Liao Tuichong used a stick to knock him unconscious. Then he dragged him to a secluded place, poured gasoline on him, and finally set him on fire. Afterward, Liao Tuichong immediately went to meet Liu Yihong to receive his reward. However, he only received 6,000 yuan and was told that the rest would be given later. In fact, Liu Yihong had no money and thought she would take the money from inheriting her husband's assets after he died to pay the reward. Liao Tuichong was very angry about this. When caught, he immediately confessed that Liu Yihong had plotted to kill her husband as revenge. Liu Yihong was then arrested by the police and sentenced to life imprisonment. Although she constantly argued that she had to do it because of abuse, it was clear that it was just an excuse for her cruel actions, devoid of any conscience. In fact, Lin Yong Lao's family and neighbors denied these accusations. And even those who observed the events through the media or public information could see that. Although aware that his wife plotted to kill him, Lin Yong Lao never had the intention to accuse or resist her. Clearly, he was a caring husband and father who showed considerable tolerance. On the contrary, Liu Yihong repeatedly sought ways to enrich herself, manipulate all the power in her hands, and ultimately resorted to killing her own husband, all just for the sake of money. In the end, did she ever think that the amount of money was worth the years of love between the two spouses?
In Southeast Asia, there's a saying, teach your children from a young age, teach your wife when she's a young widow. Here, we're focusing on the first part, acknowledging that teaching children is an immensely challenging issue in every family. Children are like blank sheets of paper, and therefore, every word and action of parents greatly influences their children's future thoughts. Whether you want your children to become useful members of society or morally upright citizens depends on the good deeds in front of them and discussing their significance. Or perhaps you want your children to be wealthy or marry rich spouses, ensuring a prosperous life for both them and you. Or, like the mother below, whispering to her child, you must become wealthy at all costs, sacrificing integrity, beauty, and even your character, my dear. Now, let's delve into the portrait of that amazing mother. Kuo Mei-ling, a beautiful girl born in 1991 in an ordinary family in Hubei. Her mother, Mrs. Kuo Tengfeng, was also a beautiful woman, surrounded by admirers and suitors. However, her ambition didn't stop at having a happy family. Instead, she wanted to marry a wealthy man and eventually chose Kuo Mei-ling's father. Although Kuo Tengfeng and her husband loved each other, their conflicts escalated after having children. They often argued over money, and the pressure from his wife forced Kuo Mei-ling's father onto the wrong path, resorting to dishonest means to make money, ultimately leading to his arrest for fraud. Seeing her husband fail to achieve anything, Kuo Tengfeng never gave up hope. She set her sights on her daughter, hoping she would continue her unfulfilled dreams from her youth. Kuo Tengfeng didn't care if her daughter excelled academically. She only wanted her to maintain her beauty and marry a wealthy man in the future. She often whispered this into Kuo Mei-ling's ear, and this ideology deeply ingrained itself in the girl's mind from a young age. Gradually, it formed a belief that beauty was the best way to wealth. And Kuo Mei-ling listened to her mother, neglecting her studies and instead focusing on makeup all day. Her parents naturally didn't care about this, and neither did her teachers at school. In addition, her family situation was not harmonious. Her mother, Mrs. Kuo Tengfeng, and her husband frequently insulted each other over financial matters. Eventually, they had to divorce, and Kuo Tengfeng lived alone with her daughter. Kuo Mei-ling once shared, "My mother never took care of me. She was too focused on her career and love affairs. I grew up under the care of a nanny." Since the age of 5, Kuo Mei-ling had changed schools multiple times, from Guangdong to Shenzhen, then to Hubei and Yijiang, due to school bullying and violence. With her perfect appearance and beauty, Kuo Mei-ling often went on dates with different wealthy men, all of whom were rich heirs, which made her the target of jealousy and even group attacks from other girls. Kuo Mei-ling also once said, "My childhood dream was not about studying or making efforts, but to make myself beautiful and find a wealthy man to marry." Facing such envy from friends and without completing high school, Kuo Mei-ling dropped out and entered the School of Life. There was information that she quit school after a fight outside the school. At that time, Kuo Mei-ling and her boyfriend went to the cinema in Yijiang and were surrounded and physically assaulted, and there were even rumors that she was raped. After quitting school, Kuo Mei-ling tried her hand at selling clothes and cosmetics due to her good communication skills. However, it didn't last long because at that time, her mother, Kuo Tengfeng, had bigger goals for her daughter. When Kuo Mei-ling turned 16, Kuo Tengfeng saw her daughter's youthful and radiant beauty and began to press her to introduce herself to many people. However, Kuo Mei-ling failed to meet expectations and did not bring home a wealthy son-in-law to support both her and her mother. Not giving up, Kuo Tengfeng came up with another plan. This time, she thought of making Kuo Mei-ling a celebrity. Only in this way could she easily approach people of high status and wealth. But things didn't go as expected for the mother and daughter. Entertainment companies did not agree with the terms proposed by Mrs. Kuo Tengfeng and rejected the young girl. Less than half a year later, Mrs. Kuo Tengfeng was dating a wealthy foreign man. By that time, Kuo Mei-ling had gone to Shenzhen to study at the Beijing Film Academy. However, luck still didn't smile upon her. After numerous attempts, she still couldn't find a satisfactory destination. Finally, on January 12, 2011, at the age of 20, Kuo Mei-ling officially changed her name to Kuo Mei-mei. According to her mother, this name was suggested by a great master. Indeed, within less than 6 months of the name change, Kuo Mei-mei caused a big stir on social media and became one of the top concerns of the public. The reason also stemmed from a fateful encounter with a man. In the same year, the Chinese internet community was stirred when a beauty with the username Kuo Mei My Baby appeared on the social media platform Weibo, flaunting a luxurious lifestyle that left others in awe. With her stunning looks and extravagant possessions like a rare, expensive Maserati sports car, mobile phones, handbags, expensive watches, luxury villas, and yachts, Kuo Mei Mei was considered the top rich and beautiful socialite at the time, although no one knew her true background. Kuo Mei Mei revealed on social media that she lived in a large villa, drove a Maserati, and was certified as the Chief Commercial Officer of the Chinese Red Cross Association. This caused an uproar, with speculation and suspicion that her lavish lifestyle was funded by donations to the Red Cross, and some even spread rumors about her having a connection to the Red Cross. As predicted, the phrase, "Who is Kuo Mei Mei?" sparked heated debates. Kuo Tengfeng continued to support her daughter, encouraging her to keep stirring up discussions to gain fame. However, after Kuo Mei Mei's scandal, where she deceived people, the Red Cross got involved in a scandal that severely damaged its reputation, and donations plummeted for several years. Despite Weibo later confirming that Kuo Mei Mei's profession was an actress and the title of Chief Executive Officer was self-proclaimed, the Red Cross had to deny the rumors, but it couldn't salvage the situation. Despite causing such a scandal, Kuo Mei Mei acted as if nothing had happened. In 2011, she performed at a bar in Fuzhou. In less than 25 minutes, she easily earned hundreds of thousands of yuan. On the same day, Kuo Mei Mei performed 2 songs she released herself and used the Red Cross's name to promote herself. Furthermore, a company offered her 1 million yuan annually to sign a contract. Thanks to this, she released her first song. There were also rumors that a management company promised to invest in a historical film with a huge budget of 30 million yuan, inviting Dong Xiu as the male lead and Kuo Mei Mei as the female lead. Although this film was just an empty promise, Kuo Mei Mei still didn't give up her dream of entering the film industry. In 2013 alone, she appeared in 3 web dramas. However, her dream of marrying a wealthy man remained unfulfilled. Kuo Tengfeng didn't give up and urged her daughter to use her beauty and good social skills to attract more relationships. She also organized various activities and invited some wealthy young men to participate. At the party, Kuo Mei Mei appeared to attract these wealthy men. Kuo Mei Mei also quickly caught the attention of some young men. Although they weren't wealthy, their backgrounds were affluent. Shortly after, Kuo Mei Mei officially dated a foreign man. He treated her well, although he didn't give her much money, he tried his best to meet her demands. At that time, both thought of ways to establish themselves for a better life. Running a casino seemed like a good idea, according to Kuo Mei Mei's thinking. But unfortunately, that decision led Kuo Mei Mei's life down a darker path. In July 2014, there was a commotion when Kuo Mei Mei was arrested for betting on the World Cup. It was known that not only did she gamble, but she also collaborated to open a casino to make huge profits. Specifically, Kuo Mei Mei invited a professional card dealer, hired an accountant to handle the gambling money, invited friends to play, and earned illegal commissions. During the investigation, Kuo Mei Mei revealed that she made 460,000 yuan in one night. Ultimately, Kuo Mei Mei was sentenced to 5 years of probation. Despite Kuo Mei Mei's involvement in illegal activities, Kuo Tengfeng didn't regret assisting her daughter in these unlawful actions. In her mind, she always harbored a fanciful dream that her daughter would be released from prison and continue her unfinished dreams from the past. At that time, the media learned and uncovered a shocking truth about the background and fleeting wealth of the young girl, Mei Mei. Always wanting her daughter to find a wealthy husband, Kuo Tengfeng set her sights on a new target for her daughter, the tycoon Wang Quan, known in Shenzhen. Interestingly, he had once proposed to Kuo Tengfeng but was rejected by her parents due to his lack of a career. Perhaps this shock motivated him to strive for success, and later, Wang Quan became a tycoon through his business acumen. It was too late for regret. Kuo Tengfeng, now older and less attractive, thus resorted to hooking her daughter up with Wang Quan to become a provider for Kuo Mei Mei. Of course, surely you'll understand why an older tycoon like Wang Quan would take on the role of sugar daddy for a 20-year-old girl, right? In truth, from the very first glance, Wang Quan was enchanted by the beauty of 20-year-old Kuo Mei Mei. That day, they had a very pleasant conversation, and before leaving, Wang Quan gave Kuo Mei Mei 30,000 yuan. Later, when they met again, he gave her another 50,000 yuan, and subsequent times, it was 100,000 yuan. And an obvious fact, the more times they met, the less they talked, and instead, their actions spoke louder. You get what I mean, right? Wang Quan was very generous with Kuo Mei Mei. If she wanted a luxury car, he would agree and directly give her 2.4 million yuan. The strange thing was that Kuo Tengfeng didn't feel that the relationship between her former lover and her daughter was wrong. Instead, she actively facilitated their interactions. However, when the Beijing police investigated the case of Kuo Mei Mei impersonating herself as the CEO of the Red Cross, Wang Quan was also temporarily detained on suspicion of involvement in prostitution. It was only at this point that Wang Quan truly saw the true face of his young lover. In the interrogation room, he regretfully said, "She disregarded the consequences for fame and money. The honor of the Red Cross was severely damaged by her unscrupulous actions. I also suffered greatly because of her. Kuo Mei Mei is a lifelong nightmare for me." During the investigation, Kuo Mei Mei admitted to signing a contract with a management company, arranging about 50 nightclub performances for her each year, paying her 50,000 yuan each time, which was her main source of income. However, the police found that she had performed less than 20 times, mostly engaging in prostitution under the guise of performance. A police officer provided information to the media. Kuo Mei Mei communicated through social media, introduced by acquaintances, or actively approached, engaging in prostitution multiple times, with each encounter fetching hundreds of thousands of yuan. Finally, Kuo Mei Mei and Wang Quan were sentenced to 5 years in prison. Only when sitting in prison did Kuo Mei Mei shed tears of repentance. In fact, neither I nor my relatives, friends, or even my ex-boyfriend, Mr. Wang, were employees of the Red Cross. I didn't know anyone in that organization. Today, I want to tell the truth, restore the innocence of the Red Cross, sincerely apologize to the Red Cross, the public, those who were not helped, truly apologize. During this time, recalling what I have done in recent years, I deeply regret it. After getting out, I will not gamble, flaunt wealth, or engage in illegal activities anymore, and I will become a new person. Finally, on July 13th, 2019, Kuo Tengfeng went to pick up her daughter and brought her home early in the morning. She was very happy to see Kuo Mei Mei again, but perhaps the happiest thing was that her daughter would continue to earn money for her expenses. However, Kuo Mei Mei was no longer loved by the public, as the previous incident had seriously affected her. Kuo Tengfeng advised her daughter to appear in public with a new appearance. Kuo Mei Mei underwent cosmetic surgery, and although her appearance had changed, she was no longer as beautiful as before. After gaining the trust of some people, Kuo Mei Mei began selling weight loss drugs. She talked about its miraculous effects and used herself as proof. Kuo Mei Mei later made a lot of money from selling weight loss drugs, as the cost was not high, and many people bought them because of their good effects. She lived a luxurious life again. The business seemed to be going well until Kuo Mei Mei's name was among the 75 people arrested by Shanghai police in April 2021 for selling weight loss foods containing sibutramine, an appetite suppressant banned in China, in a case involving over 50 million yuan, about 7.77 million USD. Sibutramine can be used to treat obesity, but it has side effects such as irregular heartbeat, difficulty breathing, increased blood pressure, and numbness on one side of the body. Police closed down 3 production sites and 24 sales outlets, seizing 65,000 pills, 34 kilograms of raw materials, 3 production machines, and over 20,000 packages. Finally, with solid evidence, on October 18, 2021, Kuo Mei Mei was sentenced to 2.5 years in prison and fined 200,000 yuan, about 31,000 USD, by the Shanghai court for selling weight loss foods containing banned substances. Her accomplice, Wang Niuli, was sentenced to 7 months in prison and fined 10,000 yuan, about 1,550 USD. As her daughter continued to make mistakes, Kuo Tengfeng also became increasingly silent, living more discreetly. Perhaps deep down, she realized the mistake in educating her children to have a pragmatic mindset and pursue money at all costs. And even if there was regret, it was too late. Human life is inherently full of mistakes, but not everyone has the opportunity to correct them, so one must cherish and not repeat past mistakes. Speaking in the case of Kwame Mai, it's a bit difficult because she has been injected with wrong thoughts by her mother since childhood, so changing overnight is not easy. However, the important thing is whether she wants to change or not.
Today, I will tell you a very tragic case. The reason I say so is because the two main characters of this case could have had a very bright future if this regrettable incident had not occurred. And the source of the incident is believed to be from their own home where they were born. On August 26, 2005, International Flight UA 835 from Chicago, USA to Shanghai, China, landed on time at Dongfang Airport. Passengers began the immigration process. However, during this process, they discovered a very suspicious man. This person was petite, presenting a passport with the name Ha Luo. However, it was clear that the information on the passport had been altered, and furthermore, this person was in an unusually tense state. Upon closer examination, the police discovered that the man was actually a woman dressed as a man. Customs immediately controlled this woman, and the police quickly intervened. According to the investigation, the disguised male passenger's real name was Tran Dan Loi, a Chinese student studying in the United States. According to Tran Dan Loi's confession, because her mother was seriously ill and needed to return home urgently, but unfortunately, she lost her passport, so she took the risk of borrowing Ha Luo's passport, her friend's. However, after further investigation, the police found that this girl was lying. The truth was that her mother had passed away, and Ha Luo was not just a friend, in fact, he and she were husband and wife. Ha Luo was living in Shanghai, and his parents rushed to the airport upon hearing that their daughter-in-law had been arrested. In the face of suspicion from her in-laws, Tran Dan Loi assured them that Ha Luo was fine, still healthy in the United States. However, his parents-in-law were still not reassured. They kept asking questions, but only received silence from their daughter-in-law. As parents, faced with such an unusual event, they naturally felt like sitting on a hot seat, just hoping that their child could be safe. Unfortunately, luck did not smile on them. Something they could never have imagined happened. Specifically, just a few days later, on the afternoon of August 30th, in Lafayette City, Indiana State, USA, the police found 4 garbage bags containing body parts in a car parked in a parking lot. The next day, the victim's identity was confirmed, and he was a 28-year-old Chinese student studying in the U.S., also Tran Dan Loi's husband, Ha Luo. This information was quickly transmitted to China. Up to this point, Tran Dan Loi admitted to her criminal behavior. What puzzled observers of the case the most was that both were obviously very intelligent, former prestigious university students who went on to study abroad. Just hearing about them made it clear that this couple would have a very bright future. So what made Tran Dan Loi resort to such ruthless actions? Tran Dan Loi was born in 1977 in Chengdu City, Sichuan Province, China. From a young age, her academic achievements were excellent, but her personality was not very friendly. Almost always buried in books, she could be considered a true bookworm. During high school, she always had short hair, not very tall, wore glasses, and didn't wear the girly clothes that girls usually liked. It's no coincidence that everyone who knew Tran Dan Loi was impressed by her academic achievements. In 1995, she ranked 5th in the high school graduation exam in Sichuan Province, then enrolled in the chemistry department of Tanhua University, a top university in China. Even when she grew up, Tran Dan Loi was still very petite, only 1.55 meters tall, not outstanding in any way. Although she was a good student, she also had a fatal weakness, which was that she wasn't very good at socializing. In early 1998, while in her 3rd year of college, in an elective class, Tran Dan Loi accidentally picked up a ballpoint pen, which turned out to belong to a male friend from the same class who was looking for it. She then returned the pen to this guy, and thanks to that pen, the two from 2 parallel paths suddenly collided, and everything started from there. Tran Dan Loi, thus gained another male friend. Ha Luo came from a normal family with parents working as laborers in Shanghai, yet he excelled academically. His personality was quite cheerful, sociable, and he had a great ability to adapt to new circumstances, which was completely opposite to Tran Loi. After that day, and also due to having some classes together, the two had more opportunities to talk and interact. Then, on a cold November day in 1998, a group of students went stargazing, and Tran Loi and Ha Luo were very excited. It was on that night that two ordinary friends developed a closer relationship, or what we call lovers. However, according to the memory of Ha Luo's roommate, he had never seen Ha Luo bring his girlfriend back to the room. Instead, Tran Loi always had to go find the buffalo, going all the way to the men's dormitory to wait for her boyfriend to come down. Then, after the date, she would bring her boyfriend back to the dormitory and then return alone. Moreover, when his roommate asked about their relationship, Ha Luo just reluctantly nodded, seeming like he didn't care much about this girlfriend. Around this time, Tran Loi's family was going through a crisis. Her mother unfortunately passed away, and for a girl who only had her mother by her side from childhood to adulthood, how could she bear such a shock? So from then on, Tran Loi began to become more sensitive to the words and actions of those around her. This was especially evident after Tran Loi received a full scholarship to continue her studies at Purdue University in the United States. In January 2001, she went abroad alone for her studies. At that time, Ha Luo also got accepted to a master's program in mechanical engineering at Thanhua University. Of course, they tried to maintain their long-distance relationship, but both seemed unable to bear the geographical separation. Therefore, Tran Loi and Ha Luo planned to get married, and then Ha Luo would apply for a visa to go to the US with his wife. So, 4 months later, in May 2001, Tran Loi returned to the country, and she and Ha Luo registered for marriage. However, they didn't plan to have the wedding right away, but to organize it later. After a difficult period of obtaining a visa, Ha Luo flew to the US to live with his wife. Their main source of income to cover their daily expenses came from Tran Loi's scholarship. Their life in a foreign land could be considered very harmonious and happy. Their studies also went smoothly. Thanks to his excellent academic performance, Ha Luo pursued a master's degree in mechanical engineering at Purdue University and also had the opportunity to receive scholarships. Tran Loi thought that once Ha Luo had money, he would care for her more than before. But she was wrong. On the contrary, Ha Luo didn't share that joy with her, not even a small gift. Tran Loi naturally felt a bit disappointed. Compared to ordinary couples, Tran Loi perhaps wasn't as lucky as other women, being loved and cared for by her husband. Instead, Ha Luo always saw Tran Loi as a solid support so that he could rely on her for everything. Tran Loi always picked up Ha Luo whenever he needed to go out, dealt with any car troubles, and even when it came to packing and moving, Tran Loi had to bear it all alone. Ha Luo relied on his wife materially, while Tran Loi sought emotional support from her husband. She hoped that all her efforts would be rewarded. However, with a situation like this, Tran Loi might never get the love she always wished for. Gradually, with these factors combined with their differing personalities, the couple's marriage began to encounter more problems. So, by the end of 2003, Tran Loi finally received her master's degree and had the opportunity to work as a research assistant in a chemical engineering laboratory. However, because she wasn't well liked by her colleagues, no one wanted to work with her. Her research work also progressed slowly, making her feel extremely pressured. In this world, there was only one person she trusted and regarded as family, and that was Ha Luo. It was for this reason that she was very sensitive, imagining that the other person didn't care about her and felt hurt. Although she knew her wife sometimes got angry for no reason, Ha Luo didn't care much. He thought that couples argued sometimes, and as long as it passed a night, everything would be fine, nothing significant happened. However, Tran Dan Loi's thoughts were completely opposite. She felt that her husband didn't care about her feelings at all, never thought about her. As a result, her emotions became worse day by day. One day, Ha Luo went fishing with his friends, and Tran Dan Loi accompanied them but didn't participate, just sat nearby watching. Actually, she wanted to try fishing herself that day, but Ha Luo didn't allow it. As their marriage became more unstable over time, Tran Dan Loi felt that Ha Luo didn't respect her. Arguments over trivial and significant matters increased between them, and Tran Dan Loi often resorted to violence against her husband when they argued uncontrollably. Sometimes Tran Dan Loi would ask Ha Luo what his purpose was in marrying her, and Ha Luo would just say it was because she was lovable. Of course, for a sensitive woman like Tran Dan Loi, he was merely responding for the sake of it. Even though Ha Luo had never cheated or been caught cheating, Tran Dan Loi still harbored suspicions. Resentment accumulated more and more in the young wife's heart. Then, on August 2nd, 2004, at 1:51 in the morning, she even forced her husband to write a commitment letter to her. During Christmas 2004, as they argued as usual, Tran Dan Loi, in a fit of anger, took out a hidden knife and stabbed Ha Luo in the chest. After being rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment, the doctors suspected foul play and reported to the police. Ha Luo later confessed to the police that this was not the first time such an incident had occurred, because Tran Dan Loi had been violent towards him before, but this time was the most serious. Therefore, the police arrested Tran Dan Loi and proposed to charge her with intentional assault. Despite Tran Dan Loi committing such a serious act, Ha Luo still tried to bring his severely injured body to the police station to bail his wife out with $5,000. He said that even if he went bankrupt, he didn't want his wife, who had started her life with him, to go to jail. Although she was released, Tran Dan Loi was still subject to a restraining order, not allowed to approach Ha Luo until the trial. She also had her passport confiscated and had to undergo regular psychological treatment. During this time, Tran Dan Loi stayed at friends' houses. Tran Dan Loi also told her friend that she deeply regretted what she had done, would take responsibility, and would never get angry or cause harm to her husband again. It was thought that after such a serious incident, the couple would separate, but in May 2005, after Tran Dan Loi's restraining order was lifted, they continued to live together as if nothing had happened. On Ha Luo's side, he believed that he and his wife could forget all the past events and start anew. However, for Tran Dan Loi, her psyche became increasingly distorted. Obviously, not long after, they quarreled again over trivial matters. It was around this time that Ha Luo realized his wife hadn't changed at all, so he made the decision to end the marriage. Ha Luo knew that in 3 months, at the trial on August 26, 2005, Tran Dan Loi could very well be convicted and deported from the United States, never to return again. Therefore, he transferred $20,000 to Tran Dan Loi's account, considering it to help her get by. While Ha Luo pledged to ensure Tran Dan Loi's living expenses upon her return home after the divorce, Tran Dan Loi began to plan to end everything. She connected with someone named Jack online, circumventing the law to buy a handgun and a few bullets for $300. Then, on August 19, 2005, local time, the couple had a fierce argument until dawn. Ha Luo insisted on divorce, even though Tran Dan Loi tried to ask if there was any way to salvage the situation, but her husband just shook his head. Ha Luo stopped arguing and went to bed, while Tran Dan Loi took out a handgun from the bedside drawer. So, on that rainy day, Tran Dan Loi shot a bullet into the back of her innocent sleeping husband's head. A week later, Tran Dan Loi found herself in a state of vague confusion. Ha Luo's body still lay on the bed. She stayed beside the bed until the stench of decay became overwhelming. At that point, she made the decision to clean up the crime scene at any cost. So once again, Tran Dan Loi reached out to the man online for help. She paid him $3,000 as a fee. With everything settled, Tran Dan Loy left the house. Ha Luo's body was fragmented, wrapped in 4 black garbage bags, and placed in the trunk of a car. The car was then parked in a parking lot. As for Tran Dan Loy, she used Ha Luo's name to create a fake passport with her own picture. On August 25, 2005, Tran Dan Loy was discovered and arrested shortly after. On July 10, 2006, the case went to trial in Shanghai. The suspect, Tran Dan Loy, was charged with premeditated murder. She appealed and pleaded not guilty. However, the evidence gathered showed that Tran Dan Loy had purchased the gun and all the actions were carried out by her alone. Regarding the reasons for committing this crime, Tran Dan Loy blamed her family for everything. She said her family had made her obsessed with the 2 words, divorce. Her father was a university professor, while her mother had a low level of education, so there was a significant disparity between them. Her mother always feared that one day her father would abandon them. Her mother also forced her father not to have any contact with other women. She frequently argued and quarreled loudly with her husband. Her father remained extremely patient until Tran Dan Loy successfully got into Tanhua University, and only then did he decide to divorce. Her mother then had to live in difficult circumstances, without a stable place to stay, and later passed away. Tran Dan Loy believed that all these tragedies were caused by the 2 words, divorce. If her parents hadn't divorced, her mother wouldn't have suffered so much. Therefore, she didn't allow herself to repeat her mother's tragedy. Every argument with Ha Luo made her feel heartbroken and utterly helpless. Tran Dan Loy didn't want a divorce, nor did she accept the idea that her ex-husband could be free in the United States while she suffered alone returning to her homeland. She thought they should end everything together. The question arises, if Tran Dan Loy successfully passed China's immigration check, what would have happened? Would she have confessed? Perhaps not. Ultimately, Tran Dan Loy's initial intention was probably not eternal unity, but simply to make Ha Luo disappear from this world. Finally, Tran Dan Loy was sentenced to life imprisonment, but the sentence was suspended for 2 years. Additionally, she had to compensate over $62,000 to the victim's family. Due to good behavior, Tran Dan Loy's sentence was reduced to a fixed-term imprisonment. After several reductions, her years in prison have significantly decreased, and by November 29, 2025, she could be released on parole. Furthermore, if she continues to show good progress, she may have the opportunity to be released even earlier in the future. And this is today's case. What are you thinking? Let's discuss in the comments section below. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next videos. Goodbye.